Today started with Lao Chow. We spent last night in the mountains and now we're going to the highlands. We're in a region near Moychay in the west of Guangxi Province, close to Yunnan Province as well. Wenchen County in particular is well known for its old tea trees, but it's unexplored. Even people who work in the tea trade don't come here, because it's too far from the main tea-producing counties like Moychay, and it's even further from Lincoln. Even the mountains are far away, so it's not often mentioned among the most popular tea regions, even though they produce tea here. I spoke with some producers on the phone because I haven't been here yet. My friends from Nuzhang gave some contacts to me. And this time we decided to go to Moychay before going to Yunnan, as we had some tea of high quality from Moychay in our shop. It was a wonderful ripe pu'er many people remember, I guess. Then we bought tea leaves in Moychay and sent them to Dali for fermentation. It was a unique tea of high quality. Maybe we'll get some more a bit later. We decided to make our assortment more geographically diverse, to find tea from some new regions, to travel around this region in the west of Guangxi and in the eastern part of Yunnan. Our adventure starts with a visit to an ancient tea forest. We had to travel for 40 minutes to get here. Yesterday we spent the night not far from here, then we travelled for the whole day. In some places the road isn't good, so we couldn't move as fast as we'd like to. But that's not a problem, because we've experienced different things. So we'll see what an ancient tea forest looks like. Right now I can only see eucalyptus trees. They seem to be endless. They plant it to produce wood and other crops, but not tea. Finally, we arrived at the village where we thought the tea trees are. It's surrounded by eucalyptus and sugarcane plantations, and there is a small concrete mountain road. We've seen tiny tea gardens, and it looks like Daejung tea cultivar with big leaves. I don't know which one it is exactly, probably from Moychay, probably some local cultivar. Anyway, I hope we'll get to the tea factory. We'll see everything in the place. Here are the first tea pickers. They say they've already made some batches of tea, and now they're picking the second or third crop. They produce red tea. They don't know the name of the cultivar, but they say that it's good for making red tea. But it's very beautiful. Some leaves remind me of fu shu. Very wide, very unusual. Looks like some kind of local cultivar, or a mixed cultivar from some local trees. We'll see later. Probably we'll ask someone who knows it better. But that's the first tea plantation surrounded by eucalyptus. It's unusual. It's the first time I saw something like that. In Yunnan they don't plant eucalyptus, but here it's a common practice. Every place is unique. We'll go further, and hopefully we'll get to the old tea trees and we'll taste local tea. We've arrived at the village and local farmers are happy to see us. We asked the farmers about the local cultivar. He said it's called Guliao and it's used mainly for red tea production. We're going to taste it now. It's got unusual aroma and taste. A common thing is taking photos with foreign guests. We never refuse, as we ourselves are filming. That's a good red tea. The first flush tastes like average good red tea. Something like not Tian Hong but Gung Fu Hong teas, but nothing extraordinarily special. The tea's not bad, but the price is pretty high, like Guangxi teas from Yunnan, even more expensive. Probably we'll get some for our collection. It seems to me that this tea has a very strong effect. Yeah, it really has. He said that this tea is made from old tea tree leaves, and that he's going to show us the trees now. Leaves from the bushes that grow nearby are 2 or 3 times cheaper, but this tea is made out of old tree tea, Guliao cha. We'll try it. I asked him to bring some more teas. He said that's the whole batch. It's really not big. But judging by the new house that he has, even though it's not finished yet, he really does sell the tea for this price. The first tea is from old trees and the second is from young, about 10 years old. He says that these young trees are seedlings from the more ancient trees. Guliao cha. Frankly speaking, there's nothing special about it. This is what Guliao looks like at this factory. The leaves really remind me of leaves from old tea trees. It reminds me of Fenqing, where we also produce tea from old trees. It was specially ordered royal pu'er. This tea has a really powerful effect, so we'll take it. The Guliao tea, but just a bit to try, as it's more expensive than Guliao tea from Yunnan. That really shocked us because it's not a popular place or tourist attraction. Yeah, it's a distant place. But probably this tea is popular among local rich people and businessmen. As we can see, many people in the village have new houses and cars, just like in Yunnan. The tea is very unusual. It has a special aroma. I don't know what to compare it with. It doesn't smell like tea even. Something unusual. I have no associations yet. It's really special and different. It reminds me of Yunnan teas, Gong Fu Hong teas, as I already said. So we'll have another special tea in our collection. How can you understand that people deal with exclusive tea? Guliao, not average mass market tea. This is his tea rolling machine. Have a look at its size. It's tiny. I've seen machines like this one, but they're pretty rare. This is a tiny machine. The volume of raw leaves is very little. Every batch, you've seen the bag, is about 2, 3, 5 kilos. And there's a tiny drying machine and tiny drying racks. Micro volumes of production. 1 tray for fermentation. I'll show you how it goes. And that's it, so everything is very small. Here, I wanted to show you what the fermentation looks like. Here I have about 2 kilos of tea, or even less. So here, that's how it ferments. Usually it's done in big boxes or baskets. I've shown it many times. Here it's micro volume. What's interesting here is the finished tea. This is what he's separated from broken leaf and dust. He doesn't sell that. Medium fraction, small fraction. It's not sold. He sells the whole leaf only. The tea's pretty expensive. He tries to keep high quality. In addition, everything is organic, as this tea is made from trees' leaves. We've tasted the tea made from small bushes, but it's nothing special at all. Tea from the trees has some peculiar features. It's original, a unique local cultivar. It has its special features. Now we're going to walk in the garden and we'll buy some tea for our shop for those who'd like to try it. We keep our traditions and we've taken some photos near an ancient tea tree. This tea tree is located right in the backyard of his house. These are not the oldest tea trees, but their trunks are pretty big, the trees are pretty tall. They climb up ladders to pick the leaves. The branches are like in Yunnan Province. But in Yunnan, the trees are different. Usually they have many small branches. Since an early age, they used to climb up the tree. These trees survived by accident as the surrounding forests were cut to make room for eucalyptus plantations. They didn't manage to get here, so these trees are saved. The garden's pretty big. There are several houses in the village, and all have huge tea trees in their backyards. They're about 5 meters tall. One of them is really big. We'll have a walk around and we'll see. He said there are some trees here that are 1,000 years old. They're called Guliao. Now I'm sitting next to two of the largest tea trees in the backyard. They were planted many years ago. But they also grow randomly, so maybe they're wild, I'm not sure. Gu Cha Shu, ancient tea trees. In Yunnan, they would be called Lao Cha Shu. It's different, some places Gu, in others Lao. Anyway, these trees are more than 100 years old. Some are probably older than 250 years. They have beautiful sprouts, with a bit of purple colour, that is a characteristic feature of many old wild tea trees. I've asked if they mix the leaves while they're picking, and he said that they're trying to separate them into two types. Here there are only two types, leaves from old trees and from young plants. In Yunnan, they often separate it into categories. Shengtai Cha means young bushes. Zhao Shu Cha, Zhu Shu Cha, Da Shu Cha, and Gu Shu Cha. Small, medium, big, and ancient tea trees. I believed his story because we can see the small volume of production. Moreover, there's almost no other tea in the area about 100 kilometers from here. In Yunnan, when a place becomes famous, producers can mix their tea with leaves from other regions. And they sell it under the name of a famous brand. But here, there's nothing like that. There are simply no other tea producers in the area. It's a bit isolated. It's located in the center of an agricultural region, a tiny mountainous region where they produce tea. It's surrounded by sugarcane, eucalyptus and other crops. It's very unusual. We'll have a walk around and have a look a bit more.
I have
many friends who are fond of different beautiful branches and leaves, and I love them too. Here lies a big cut down old tea tree. We'll take some branches with us. Here's a trunk of a tree. It doesn't grow. It's cruel, but anyway. So, this is how you pick leaves from old tea trees. They put a ladder and the person climbs very high to the top. Actually, I like all these stories, but there is one problem when you travel for a very long time in these tea regions and villages. You know the story, that some people want to sell their tea for a higher price because they want more money. And every time you hear all these stories, you want to check them. But this time it turned out to be true. This tea is really unique. There are many old tea trees in the area. We've seen the local Chawan tree, it's close. It's a huge tree, more than 1,000, maybe 1,500 years old. And the tea garden itself is pretty big. The interesting thing is that they use it to produce red tea only. I even wanted to suggest that they try making raw pu'er. That would be interesting. Why is the cultivar so special? All these small bushes are seedlings from the old tea trees. I think that making some other types of tea is worth trying as well. The tea will be special. Producing these tiny volumes requires labour-intensive work, so we'll get a new specialty. come to a new village in the same area. Here's a huge forest of old tea trees. This tree's a bit younger. The whole mountain is covered with these trees. Some of them grow in the forests, some of them were cut to improve other trees' growth. This tree is sick and a bit dry. You can still see the big size of the garden. It's interesting that they traditionally produce red tea and they don't produce raw pu'er. They make a bit of green tea as well, but they don't like it. I asked them, why don't you make raw pu'er? Learn to make it. And they said, well, we don't know how to make it. Show us and we'll give you the roasting pan. And I said, no thanks, I don't have enough experience to spoil the gushu leaves. Maybe sometimes later I'll try. Anyway, we are continuing our communication with them. They are Zhuang people, and we are in Guangxi region of China. There are about 200 people in the village, and with the main village that's located down the hill, there are about 500 people in total, and more than half of them work in tea. They pick it on their own, without inviting specially trained pickers. Everything is done by hand. It's impossible to pick leaves from a tree using special machines. And the huge size of the gardens attracted my attention, because it means that there's no point in counterfeiting tea. They have enough. I guess that this region will develop with time and it has already been promoted. We're interested in finding a region that will be difficult to find on Baidu. Baidu is the Chinese Google, if you didn't know. We're trying to find a place that's not easy to find, because tea in such places can be very good, and also much cheaper. That's our trick. I'm not ashamed of it. China's huge and there's enough tea for everyone, so we have to work hard. By the way, here are tiny birds, hummingbirds. They're jumping from one branch of the tree to the other. You can hear them singing. Local tea trees have a unique feature that distinguishes them from many other tea trees in Yunnan, especially those that are actively domesticated and have a long history. Trees here are very tall. It shows that nobody paid attention to them for a long period of time. Their survival is a miracle, thanks to the wild nature of the region. Here the trees have long clear trunks and branches suitable for climbing up the tree and picking the leaves, about 3 to 4 meters high. They say that climbing these trees is difficult. We can see sticks that are attached to the trees with dry vines for climbing and leaf picking. So this is a very unique tea garden. Firstly, there are many trees here. All trees have special numbers. 118 is written here, for example. They don't count small trees like this one or that one. They don't have numbers. But big trees that are more than 200 years old have their own special number. I think in time they will have the protection plates like in Yunnan, called Bianhao Baohu Bai. I've seen those Baohu Pai on some big trees here, and these plates are widespread in Yunnan. Unfortunately, they started doing all this too late, but anyway, this will help to protect some tea trees and tea forests in the region. I like the story that often happens when talking to people in China. Let's go and have a little walk. The place is near. And then we find ourselves on a small stone-paved road climbing up a hill somewhere. We're climbing up the hill and see that tea gardens are everywhere. I also asked about the tiny trees, whether they're cultivating them on purpose. He said, no, they grow from seeds on their own. All areas protected, cutting trees is prohibited, so everything grows on its own here. But actually, I've seen how villagers were cutting trees that had bad growth. The trees that don't produce anything are cut down. The size of the tea forest is amazing, and that's not even the end of the journey. We're going on more. We're walking in these endless tea forests. The combination of tea and forest suits perfectly to this area. This is a real wild tea forest. Most of the teas are tea trees. Unfortunately, all of the trees are cut down to make room for these tea trees. It's necessary for tea cultivation. Here we can see a young woman picking tea leaves using a bamboo ladder. It's a risky job. She says that accidents happen regularly, especially when people are picking leaves at the top. It's not easy to pick tea at this altitude, and there's nothing you can hold on to. Anyway, that's what she's picked after the whole day. This bag full of fresh leaves, let me show you. That's a harvest for the whole day. It turns into about 2 kilos of dry tea, not more. Usually it's about 1 kilo after a whole day of hard work.
This
is one of the largest trees that they have here. I can't even put my arms around it. They say it's 1,000 years old. I can believe it, as in Yunnan, trees like this are about 1,000 years old. But as I've said, the unique feature of these trees is that they are very tall and straight. It'd be interesting to know more about the history of this garden. Most of them are wild, but some grow in lines and it looks like they've been planted. But anyway, the tea is very good, and it's the best season now. There are many pickers here. They climb up these tall trees and the smaller ones. Practice and experience are necessary. They use small ladders here too. By the way, the fresh tea buds are very delicious. I like eating wild tea buds. They're sweet. Not bad. Here the tea garden ends and the wild jungles start. They said there are tea trees in the jungle that haven't been separated from the other plants. He said they pick the tea too slowly from these trees that are deep in the forest. I have a wonderful tradition. I enjoy climbing trees. That's why I decided to take part in this process. To get closer to the local tea culture directly. Like this. He said, be careful, man. Don't come too close to local tea culture. I told him it's okay, I'm very careful. How do they climb here, I wonder? I'd like to experience their work, because I'd like to buy their tea, and that's the best motivation. Feeling the key energy of the place. Experiencing their difficult farmers' lives as much as possible. I'm almost at the very top. I'm not going to climb any higher. I feel bad for the tree. It's not used to tall and heavy people climbing so high to the very top. Now I've reached 4 to 5 meters in height, and I'm still not at the top. So pickers, and they are generally women, climb much higher. Their work is undoubtedly very hard. Dear friends, I'm at the top of the tree, and that was a pretty fun experience. To climb my first tree in Guangxi Province. I've never climbed tea trees in this province before. It's pretty cool. It's a huge tea forest. And I guess we started exploring local tea in the right place. The only thing left, we need to teach them how to make raw pu'er. Now they're making red tea only, but to my mind, raw pu'er from these leaves will be wonderful. When we tried their red tea for the first time today, we thought that there's nothing special in the taste, just good red tea. But we experienced its effect. I asked Fedor, how do you like it? Well, we liked it. It has a really strong effect. Now we decided to experience it the proper way. So now I'm climbing off the tree. Like that. I have no special helmet or special equipment. So I'm going to climb off like that. They say
Поэтому буду я очень
You have to be
аккуратен.
careful.
Особенно с учетом того, что я еще
I will follow this advice,
эту камеру держать.
especially while I'm trying to hold the camera.
Вот, а тут можно увидеть, как на самом деле.
Here you can see the real strength of a tea
Я
tree.
думаю, не только чайное дерево могло быть так сильно, но
I don't think that tea trees are especially strong,
обросло вокруг.
but anyway, you can see how it grows around a big stone that is very heavy.
Я думаю, если бы не дерево, он бы упал вниз.
And I think that if it weren't for the tree, the stone would have fallen.
Дерево его удерживает. Дерево
The
тоже
tree keeps it from rolling down, and the tree is a few hundred years old. It's big.
тоже с него собирают чай.
They pick leaves from it too.
Для него такая двойная нагрузка.
It's sort of a double burden, the huge stone and the climbing tea pickers.
Ну и вот, наконец-то, наше восхождение завершилось.
Finally, our ascension ended. We reached the highest point of the mountain.
Рядом есть еще чуть повыше, а здесь вот что-то.
There are some places nearby that are a bit higher. Here is about 680 meters above sea level, some points are 700. And this tree is more than 1,000 years old for sure,
Потому что,
maybe even 2,000.
вот видно, что 4 таких
4
ствола
mighty
мощных,
trunks.
пятый маленький стволик молодой. И все это
The fifth is much smaller and younger,
растет, то есть,
and everything grows through stones
видно, что тут прорубали
in very inaccessible places.
потому что можно было
We can see that the
собирать.
jungle here once
Но
was cut back to
история
facilitate the
этого
picking
всего
process.
дела. То есть, когда вот тут начали
I've asked about the story of this garden and when they started picking leaves from here. The answer was, I don't know. The tea's picked for as long as we know. My grandfather, my great-grandfather.
Деревья, которые с Жуана-
Shuang people used to use these trees to pick leaves since ancient times.
Тут люди ничего не сажали, потому что, во-первых,
And it was not
если бы сажали,
planted.
то расчищали бы как-то это более.
Because if they wanted to plant a tea garden, they would have cut all the other plants.
Деревья явно
And moreover, some trees appeared here much earlier than the people
Ну, это
did.
по его предположениям, я точно это не
Well,
знаю.
that's what he
Так или
said.
иначе, в общем,
I
это
don't know
довольно
for sure.
старый, явно чайный лес.
But anyway, this is an ancient tea forest that
Поэтому,
has
да,
its
такое
roots in the
очень
centuries.
необычное место мы сегодня
And we
нашли.
found a very unusual
Узнаем
place.
потом про него побольше, но самое
I hope to
интересное,
learn more
что
about
таких
it.
чайных деревень тут не
The
одна.
most interesting thing is that there are more than 5 villages like this one nearby, so we'll have to travel more around the region. I've taken a position loved by many Chinese people. They like taking tape measures with them to show how wide the trees are. I'm trying to put my arms around this tree, but it's impossible. It has 4 trunks that grow in different directions, but it's really huge. I can't put my arms around it. I can't do this thing even with one of the trunks, even the smallest one. It's gigantic. It's great to come closer to the local history, let's say that. That's not very popular yet, as many people think that ancient tea trees grow in Yunnan only, but that's not true. They grow in Guangxi and Guizhou, even in Sichuan, so we've got many places to explore.
Местный чай Guliao чай или вот черный чай местный.
They want to make Guliao chai, or local red tea, a well-known brand, and we can say that they already have. They've built a huge information centre that is empty right now. New roads, ecological parking, and something else. And then they've abandoned it. Maybe they'll continue building it soon. But for at least 2 or 3 years, it has stood here in the same condition as we see now. It seems that investors didn't have enough money or something else to get the job done. So anyway, now we see its present condition. It's like, now we'll do everything, but then something goes wrong. Probably they'll finish the project soon. Anyway, I like Guliao chai. I can't say that it's an extraordinary tea, but anyway, it's interesting because of the raw materials that it's made out of. It can be particularly interesting for those of you who care about the ecological origins of tea. For them, it will suit perfectly. There's an end to everything, as they say. We've come down off the mountain to a beautiful house with more than 100-year-old history. Shuang people live here. It's a small farm, and now we're going back to the farmer who met us and showed us the mountains. We'll buy some tea he's made, and we'll continue our adventure.
фермеру и решили снова опробовать еще
We
раз.
returned back to the farmer's house to taste his Guangxi tea again,
Чай со старых деревьев, как выяснилось, что теперь
tea from
действительно
old
со
trees.
старых деревьев.
And now we're sure that they are really old.
Красивое у нас состоянческое такое.
So that's why it has a strong char key. We'll taste it one more time.
Действует ли на нас окружающая
We'll see whether the atmosphere will have an impact on us.
Стоит его взять просто за сам факт.
It's worth buying for its interesting original story.
И причем в данном случае легенда это не легенда, а это самое.
And in this particular case, it's not a legend, it's true.
Дикорастущий бананчик. Это тоже очень важно.
Meanwhile, I'll eat a wild-grown banana.
Дикорастущий
It's an important part of the whole ritual.
Потому что пока не съел
Without eating a wild banana, you can't understand the essence of Guangxi.
Прогреем посудку и
Finally, the water is boiling. We'll warm the dishes.
попробуем еще раз этот чай.
And now, with a clear head, we'll taste the tea.
Немножко технологию.
They need to improve their technology, I
В
guess.
целом чай аромат
But
необычный.
it has an unusual aroma in general.
Количество этого чая.
We'll buy a small amount of this tea and we'll see later.
Guliao cha. На этом, я думаю, мы
Guliao
распрощаемся
cha.
с деревней.
I think it's time to say goodbye to the village. We've got a lot of work to do.
До новых встреч.
Enjoy your tea. See you soon.